There's a kind of aquarium that actually thrives the more you leave it alone, and it's perfect for beginners. I'm talking about shrimp tanks, but more specifically, Neocaridina shrimp tanks. In this video, we're going to look at what makes shrimp tanks such a great choice, how simple they are to set up, how little maintenance they require, and why caring for them has never been easier than it is today. Let's dive right in. Just a few years ago, finding good information on shrimp keeping was a challenge. Videos were rare, advice was scattered, and most new keepers had to learn through trial and error. I don't think many of you realize just how new this side of the hobby still is. In 2021, I had just gone back into the aquarium hobby myself. One of the first channels that really drew me into shrimp keeping was Mark's Shrimp Tanks. His videos made the entire process seem approachable and fascinating. When I joined YouTube as a content creator in 2023, the shrimp community was still fairly small. Most of the established channels were already out there, and while a few were starting to grow, I don't recall anyone new joining around that time other than myself. Now, here we are in 2025 and the amount of information out there is staggering. Aside from my own channel, which covers Neocaridina Shrimp, along with Amano, bamboo, vampire, and a few other rarer species, there are several established creators who've been doing this for years. Channels like Mark Shelley Aquatics, Shrimp Keeping Answers, and Flip Aquatics, all of which focus primarily on Neocaridina care. Then there's Mark's Shrimp Tanks and Shrimp Mania, both incredible resources for Caridina species. And finally, Shrimply Explained, which dives deeper into the science of shrimp keeping, the kind of channel that makes you appreciate how much there is to learn about these tiny creatures. These 6 channels have all been on YouTube longer than I have, and what's exciting is that more shrimp-focused creators are starting to pop up every few months. Between long-form videos and shorts, there's now a wealth of information for both beginners and experienced shrimp keepers alike. Whether you want to learn about Neocaridina care, water parameters, feeding habits, or breeding behavior, someone out there has already made a video to help you, and that's what makes shrimp keeping so accessible today. But with all that information out there, how easy is it to actually set up a shrimp-only tank? The beauty of a shrimp tank is how simple and affordable it is to set up. You don't need complicated gear, expensive filters, or special lighting. All you really need is a small aquarium, a sponge filter, some inert substrate that won't affect your water parameters, and a few live plants. Most beginners start with a 5 to 10 gallon tank, although I usually recommend going with a 10 or 20 gallon instead. Smaller tanks are perfectly fine, but their water parameters can fluctuate more easily. These 3 sizes are all great for learning the basics while still being easy to manage. Start with a layer of substrate or go bare bottom if you prefer. If your goal is to keep the tank heavily planted, make sure the substrate is deep enough for roots to grow. Then add in some stones, driftwood, and plants or moss. These not only provide shelter, but also increase surface area for biofilm, one of the main foods shrimp feed on. For filtration, you can use a sponge filter or a hang-on back filter, but you can also rely on your plants for natural filtration. In that case, a simple air stone works well to keep the surface gently agitated for gas exchange, where carbon dioxide leaves the water and oxygen enters. If you really know what you're doing, you can even go filterless and skip the air stone entirely, as long as the tank is heavily planted and stable. Shrimp produce very little waste, which makes them perfect for this kind of setup. Just keep your colony small until your plants are well established. The only thing left is a basic light to help your plants grow and make it easier to enjoy the view. You can also choose to use a heater, but it isn't always necessary. Neocaridina shrimp can tolerate a fairly wide temperature range, anywhere from the mid-60s to around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 18 to 27 degrees Celsius. However, if your room temperature tends to fluctuate a lot throughout the day, it's a good idea to add a heater to keep things stable. Consistency and stability are what matter most. With all of this in place, you've got the foundation of a thriving little ecosystem. What's great about shrimp is that they don't want a sterile environment. They actually do better in tanks that look a little aged, with biofilm and algae on the glass, and plenty of natural surfaces to graze on. Over time, the tank develops a living layer of microorganisms that shrimp depend on for food. It's a kind of setup that only gets better the longer you let it mature. Once your tank is cycled and balanced, it becomes one of the easiest aquariums you'll ever maintain. The shrimp handle most of the cleanup by eating leftover food, algae, and detritus, all while keeping the ecosystem active and alive. All you really need to do is scrape algae off the front glass every so often, trim plants once in a while, and perform a 10 to 20% water change every couple of weeks, or simply top off evaporated water if you don't do water changes. So if you've ever wanted a peaceful, low-maintenance aquarium that still feels alive and dynamic, this is it. Shrimp tanks are about as plug-and-play as it gets. A little patience in the beginning goes a long way, and once your ecosystem settles in, you'll quickly see why so many aquarists fall in love with this kind of setup. In shrimp tanks, the stars of the show are, of course, the shrimp themselves. If you're a beginner, Neocaridina shrimp are the perfect starting point. They're hardy, adaptable, and come in a huge range of colors, from red cherry and blue dream to yellow goldenback and green jade. They can handle small fluctuations in water parameters much better than other species, which makes them ideal for your first colony. When choosing shrimp, it's best to stick with one color. Mixing colors might sound fun, like creating a SKITTLE tank, but over time, their offspring will lose their bright, distinct shades. Eventually, the colony reverts to the wild-type coloration of brown, gray, or greenish-brown. If you want multiple colors, it's best to set up separate tanks for each line. As for tank mates, shrimp do best when they're kept with their own kind or paired with peaceful invertebrates. Nerite snails, ramshorn snails, and Thai microcrabs are all excellent companions. They won't bother the shrimp, and some will even help clean up leftover food and algae. As you gain more experience, you can look into amano, bamboo, or vampire shrimp as possible additions, all fascinating in their own right. Before adding any other species, think about your goal. Do you want a peaceful display tank, a breeding focus setup, or a bit of both? Because no matter what you choose, a healthy shrimp colony will naturally grow over time. If you ever want to expand beyond Neocaridina, you can explore Caridina shrimp like crystal reds or Taiwan bees, or even Sulawesi shrimp, but those species are best suited for experienced keepers who can maintain more precise, stable water parameters. And if your goal is to create a true shrimp colony, hundreds or even thousands strong, avoid adding fish. Baby shrimp are small and make easy snacks for most species. If you do want a community-style setup, autosynclus catfish and bristlenose plecos are two of the few fish that are shrimp-safe and won't harm the population. Still, shrimp-only setups remain the best way to go. They're safer, calmer, and far more fascinating to watch as your colony grows and develops over time. Feeding shrimp is one of the easiest parts of keeping them, but it's also where most beginners go wrong. Shrimp don't need nearly as much food as fish. They're natural scavengers, spending most of their day grazing on biofilm, algae, detritus, and tiny microorganisms that grow naturally inside the tank. In a healthy, mature aquarium, they can find plenty to eat even if you forget to feed them for days. You can also keep botanicals like Indian almond leaves or alder cones in the tank at all times. They slowly break down over weeks, releasing beneficial tannins and creating surfaces for biofilm to grow. Shrimp will graze on them constantly, making them both a natural food source and an easy way to enrich the ecosystem. That's why the goal with feeding isn't to keep them full, it's to supplement what the tank already provides. Here's a mistake most beginners make. They treat shrimp like fish. But shrimp don't eat in meals, they graze. A good rule of thumb is to feed your shrimp, especially if it's a small colony, once a week, and only as much as they can finish within a couple of hours. If you still see food left over after that time, you're feeding too much. As your colony grows, you can increase feedings to 2 or 3 times a week. Overfeeding can quickly foul the water, cause ammonia spikes, and lead to bacterial blooms, all of which shrimp are very sensitive to. It's always safer to underfeed than overfeed. When you do feed, focus on quality, variety, and moderation. Powdered foods help feed both adults and baby shrimp since they spread across the tank, while pellet, gel, or wafer-style foods encourage natural group feeding behavior. And to make feeding even easier, I've developed my own line of premium shrimp foods, designed not just for convenience, but to give your shrimp the same natural variety and nutrition they'd find in the wild. The result? Shrimp that stay healthy, active, and thriving. Let's start with the staples, the foods you can feed once or even multiple times a week. The first is Fuse, a carefully balanced fusion of land and sea ingredients. It blends proteins like salmon, krill, and shrimp with algae, yeast, and essential vitamins. That combination delivers omega-3s for color, antioxidants for immunity, and gut-friendly nutrients that support digestion and steady growth. Fuse even comes with a tiny scoop so you'll never have to worry about overfeeding. To complement that, there's Vita. While Fuse is protein-rich, Vita is plant-based. It's made from a blend of carrot, spinach, kale, beetroot, pumpkin, and sweet potato. Packed with fiber, minerals, and antioxidants, Vita encourages healthy molting, natural coloration, and long-term vitality, all without fillers or preservatives. And just like Fuse, Vita comes with its own scoop, making it simple to measure out the right amount every time. Used together, Fuse and Vita give your shrimp the same balance they naturally seek in the wild. Now, for the complementary foods, perfect as weekly add-ons or special treats. Snow is my snowflake food made from soybean hull pellets. When it hits the water, it expands into a soft, fluffy layer that shrimp graze on for days. As it breaks down, it fuels biofilm growth, one of the most important natural food sources for shrimp. It's high in fiber, safe to leave in the tank for a long period of time, and even works as a vacation food when you're away. And finally, there's Buzz, pure natural bee pollen granules. Buzz is loaded with protein, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Just a small weekly feeding gives your shrimp an incredible boost in growth, color, energy, and overall health. You can pick up any of these foods individually, grab the full 4-pack, or try the sample 4-pack if you just want to test them first. And to make it even better, you'll get 10% off with promo code FOREVER10 at checkout. I'll leave a link for you in the description and pinned comment below. All 4 of these foods can be rotated throughout the week to keep your shrimp's diet balanced and natural. If you're the type that travels often, shrimp-only tanks are perfect. In a mature setup, shrimp can easily graze on biofilm, algae, and detritus for up to 2 weeks without feeding. And if you want to give them a little extra while you're away, drop in a few pellets of snow or add a few extra botanicals to keep them grazing while you're gone. They won't foul the water and will continue to feed your shrimp naturally while encouraging even more biofilm growth. And remember, the best tanks are the ones that feed themselves. Between biofilm, algae, and detritus, your shrimp already have a buffet waiting for them. Your job is simply to add a little variety and watch them thrive. Shrimp tanks are simple, peaceful, and endlessly rewarding. And once you understand how these little ecosystems work, you'll realize shrimp are actually some of the easiest creatures to care for, as long as you set them up right. So tell me, do you already have a shrimp-only tank setup, or is it something you're planning to create in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Now, I know for a lot of beginners, the idea of keeping shrimp can sound intimidating, especially with all the myths floating around out there. The truth is, most of those myths are what scare people away from ever trying. Things like shrimp require salt in their water, or they're too hard to care for, or they'll just die for no reason. To clear up some of those myths and help you avoid common mistakes while building a healthier, more successful shrimp tank, check out these videos next. You'll also find my full shrimp food collection linked in the description and pinned comment below. Of course, don't forget to subscribe for more shrimp keeping tips, guides, and advice. And to my Skittle squad, thank you for your continued support. I'm Andy, thanks for watching, and I hope I made shrimp keeping a little easier for you. I'll catch you in the next one.